Good evening and welcome to the Noakes Sydney Gold Coast Yacht Race briefing. And also welcome all the people that are on Zoom at the moment as well. A special thank you to Sean Langman and Noakes. They're the major sponsor of this great event. Sean, particularly thank you for your perseverance with the sponsorship. It's great to have a race after the disappointment of the last 2 years. Thank you so much. We really mean it. This evening, we'll hear from Hugh McDowell from BOM on the predicted weather conditions. Will then be followed by a pre-recorded brief of the sailing instructions by our race chair, Lee Goddard. He unfortunately can't be here this evening. David Kellett will then speak on radio requirements, and he'll note any boats that still have outstanding documentation. Hopefully not. Now, after that, you can ask questions both of both Hugh, Lee Goddard, and David. But may I ask, for those that are on Zoom, if you have a question, please will you just type it into your Q&A box, which will be monitored by Tara in the corner. And for those in the room, we ask that you wait for a mic, as it will help us record the questions. It may be that David cannot answer a question, in which case we'll take it on notice, and it will be answered by Lee Goddard and put onto the Gold Coast webpage. So this evening, we'll start with Hugh McDowell from BOM, who will talk to us about the predicted weather conditions. Can I ask you to come up? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Arthur. Right. So, first of all, just a little reminder slide. If you're going boating, these are the BOM suggestions. I'm sure you all know this already. Right. So, wind strength and direction. When we're talking about wind strength and direction, so say if we're saying northerly 15 to 20 knots, we're talking about the average wind speed, mean wind speed over a 10-minute period at 10 meters. Okay. That will be 10 meters above the sea or the ground, and that wind direction that we report is going to be in 8 different compass points. So the north, northeast, we're not doing east, northeast or anything like that on the products that go out officially on the BOM pages. Wind gusts may be 40% stronger than the 10-minute average at times, so factor that in. They can be stronger inside showers, thunderstorms, and if there's squalls as well. Those gusts can be even stronger than 40% above the mean wind. Some terminology around the wind warnings. So if there's a strong wind warning in place, that is wind speeds 26 to 33 knots. And that is not based on the gusts, but you might see some typical gusts around 35 to 47 knots. Gales, again, based on the mean wind speeds, 34 to 47. Storm force winds, 48 to 63, and that's not for thunderstorms, that's just the Beaufort storm force. Okay, same with hurricane force, 64 knots or above, and then typical gusts on the right hand side, but it is not based on the gusts. So you could have gusting to gale force but not meeting that on the gale force mean speeds, and there won't be a warning out for gales if it's based on the gust. High seas descriptions as well. So on the high seas forecast that the BOM issues, we've got all this terminology on there. So, for example, rough seas, 2.5 to 4 meters. This terminology can be found on the BOM's web pages. I'll put the link on there at the bottom for all those descriptors. If you need to decode the high seas forecasts, then you can find this as well. Wave, seas and swells. So, this is typical terminology at the top. Seas 1 to 2 meters, decreasing 1 to 1.5. The sea waves are driven by the local winds, so it's generally shorter period, and that is just waves that have been driven by the wind, not independent swell wave. Swell generated generally by distant storms, but it can be something quite close by as well. You could have a locally generated swell, but the wind, crucially, is not putting energy into that swell anymore. It's traveling under its own energy. It is not wind driven. The significant combined wave is the combination of those two. It's the seas, the swells all together. And then maximum waves, important to note, could be up to twice the height of your significant wave. So take that into account on any of the forecasts. This is just the significant wave that will be reported, or the swell wave. Maximum waves could be up to 2 times the height. And again, that little reminder there for you. So the marine weather services that the bond provides, I'm going to go through those and where to find them as well. There's a number of different ways to access these services. There's the Inmarsat, the high seas forecasts and warnings. Generally, the southeast areas where you're going to be looking for, and they're issued at 11 and 11. These slides will be provided afterwards as well, so you'll be able to get these. HF radio, a number of different bits of information on there, but I'll leave that on the slide. You can read those at your leisure. And then the VHF radio as well. And internet, we've got, which is useful to know if you may not be aware of it, there's the Marine Light Service, which is for sort of slow connections that might be able to download things at a slower sort of speed. So there's not as much information on there. It's generally in a more basic format, and it's easier to download that information when you're offshore as well, if you've got a slower internet connection, or if your mobile's just picking up a little bit of reception, then you can get that. And that's on the BOM web pages. The Marine Light looks like this. So just go to Marine Light, or just Google Marine Light BOM. You can get all the information there, the southeastern high seas, the coastal forecast as well. And all the warnings are on there. So all the information you need is on that Marine Light internet connection as well. So what text and graphical forecasts are available? We can see the coastal waters forecast, up to 60 nautical miles within the coast, issued twice per day at 5 AM and 5 PM generally, forecast for up to 4 days and updated as required. So they might be updated more frequently than that, but generally 5 AM, 5 PM is when those go out. Warnings are updated every 6 hours, so 5:11, 5:11, unless something is happening to change that, and then they'll be updated as and when needed. And then there's a local waters forecast as well that can be issued for bays, harbours and inland waters, so the Sydney local waters, for example. Coastal waters forecast, the ones you will be interested in, anything from Sydney enclosed up to the Gold Coast waters. There you can click on that web page as well. This is an example of one of the forecasts. It's not a current one, but this is how it will look when you click into it. We've up to 4 days on there, starting with the day that you're currently on. And there's an example of the coastal waters warning as well. So that'll be for winds generally, or hazardous surf. The high seas, it's the southeastern region you want to look at. It covers a large area of water. It's all the way down past Tasmania, but it does go all the way across the east coast and up north of the Gold Coast. So southeastern area, if you want to look at the high seas forecast, it's going to be a bit broader in the detail in there, but that is available as well. That's updated twice a day, and then warnings on this one updated 6 hours as well. So the warnings are again 5:11, 5:11, but the forecast is issued at 11 and 11. Example of the high seas forecast, and this is where you might need that decode table for the terminology in there, unless you remember all the different criteria on it. So it's not a current one, but this is how it looks like. You're looking at the warnings on top, then the synoptic situation and the forecast will be below that. So example of a warning as well. So I'm sure you've seen these things before, but it's worth just refreshing them and looking at them again. So this is how the warnings will be presented on the BOM website or Marine Light. And then you've also got METI as well, and this will cover the same area as the coastal forecast, the 60 nautical miles. You can look at any element on there as well. You can look at winds, you can look at waves, different swells are available on there as well. So you can break that all down, as well as if you did want to look at temperatures and other things as well. So when we come to the weather that we're expecting for the race, Sydney on Friday, we're looking at a few showers. We've got southwesterly change moving through Sydney on Friday. So a few showers coming with that. And then as we go into Saturday, cooler air spreading in, high pressure building over the region, and generally settled weather with a cool start and pretty light winds on the whole, particularly across the harbour. These are the synoptic pictures that we've got at the moment. So high pressure building over New South Wales, and they're slowly moving eastwards into the Tasman. Starting off with southerly winds at first, but then it'll start trending around to a more northerly direction. So Saturday morning, you can still see the remains of that southerly change moving up the coast. And generally, we're looking at sort of 5 to, well, let's go through the colour scheme quickly as well. The whites are 5 to 10, the lighter yellows 10 to 15, and then the darker yellow, the amber, 15 to 20, and then 20 knots plus in the greens. So generally looking at sort of 10 to 15 knots off the coast of Sydney to start off in the morning. Clear, cool and sunny to start. In the harbour, those winds are going to be a lot lighter, probably looking at land breezes just in the morning, pretty light and variable, maybe a west-southwesterly 5 knots or so across the harbour in the morning. By race start in the afternoon, that southerly change is starting to lose some of its steam, so we're starting to lose some of the strength of the winds offshore. In the harbour, generally, it's going to be quite light and variable. We might start picking up a little bit of a sea breeze, but the southerly, maybe it's southeasterly in the harbour. As you come offshore, then we're starting to pick up a southerly or southwesterly, generally 5 to 10 knots, potentially increasing 10 to 15 as you move up the coast, but depends how quickly you make it up the coast, really, because winds will continue to start easing. There's a bit of a swell running that's been created by that southerly change, so we're looking at around 1.5 to 2 meters as you get to the heads, and then as you get into more open water, it's more like 2 to 2.5 meters. It will ease slowly through the rest of the day. Around about 10 seconds. It's mostly swell driven as we're starting to lose the strength in the winds. Then by the time we get through the afternoon into the evening, this is the 7 o'clock picture. You can see the times at the top on all these pictures, all these images. So we're looking at those winds veering southeast, 5 to 10 knots, and potentially actually east-northeast if you're south of the Hunter. So losing some wind strength, starting to veer around to a bit more of an easterly direction. That swell starting to ease, more like 1.5 to 2 meters. Mostly the sig wave is mostly made up of that swell. There's not much wind wave in there as well. There's a slight to medium chance of picking up a shower the further up the coast you go. So generally a slight chance further south, more to a medium chance as you go up north of Coffs Harbour and further north. As we go overnight, Saturday into Sunday, this is the 1 AM picture. Those winds are going more east-southeast, 5 to 10 knots, but northeast if you're south of the Hunter, or even northwest if you're closer to the coast. And along the coast, we're starting to pick up potentially starting to pick up a little bit of a western land breeze as well. So if you're closer to the coast, you might start picking up light and variable winds or a westerly land breeze. Further up the coast, up past Coffs, then you're starting to pick up that more east to southeasterly 5 to 10 knots. Then as we go into the morning, continued veering of those winds as that high starts transiting more out to the Tasman. So again, a bit more of an easterly direction, northerly direction further down the coast, south of Coffs Harbour. Not much strength to it either, sort of 5 to 10 knots generally, unless you're up towards the Gold Coast, and then you're picking up a bit more wind up there. But if you're getting up there, then going pretty well. Slight chance of a shower, and again, those land breezes along the coast, so fairly light and variable winds if you're close into the coast, or potentially picking up a bit of a westerly land breeze just along the coastline. As we move into the afternoon, again, it's those east to northeasterlies. Generally 10 to 15 knots, so picking up a little bit more strength now. But there is a chance, it depends how exactly the high transits out, and there is an alternate solution of perhaps some slightly lighter winds, so might only be picking up 5 to 10 knots. I've given you the slightly stronger wind scenario coming out of the European model, but potentially it could be slightly lighter than this as well. There's not much in the way of wave left around. We've got around 1.5 meters. That's that easing south swell and then building wind wave as well, just in those easterlies. both around about a metre, giving about 1.5 metres significant wave. Slight chance of showers still as well. Then as we go overnight into Sunday, starting to pick up a bit more strength in there, northeasterlies to northerlies, generally 10 to 15 knots in the north, but there is a potential for those to be slightly lighter, depending on exactly how that high behaves and how it moves out into the Tasman. Slight chance of showers, generally similar wave heights, only looking around 1.5 metres or so combined wave height, but we're losing the period and that's well, so shortening wave period as well. When we're looking at the longer term into Monday, there's a little bit of variation in the models. We're starting to pick up a bit of, I haven't got the very neat chart I showed you before, but we're starting to pick up a bit of trough embedded into that high pressure as the high starts moving out into the Tasman. So a few showers around, pretty lightish winds, but more of a northerly flavour looking at those surface pressure charts. And we can see that reflected in the images as well, the model images. We're still on that northeasterly to northerly, even northwesterly kind of flavour along the coast. 10 to 15 knots generally as you're further north up the coast around Coffs Harbour. A little bit stronger down towards the south. Again, there is a chance that this could be a little bit lighter depending on the orientation of that high pressure, and if it's a little bit further over the coast, then it might be a little bit lighter than this. I'll give you the stronger wind scenario. Generally short periods as well, out of the east or southeast. There's not much to it, around 1.5 metres, sort of mix of short period stuff in there. Medium to high chance of showers with that trough starting to edge in and over the coast on Monday morning. Afternoon, we're looking at similar sort of conditions, really. It's those northeasterlies to northerlies down the coast, 5 to 10 knots, perhaps more like 15 along the Coffs coast. Again, there's a chance of slightly lighter winds than this. Similar sort of short period swell mix out there again. There's not much in the wave height, about 1.5 metres. Medium to high chance of showers with that trough, pretty much along a lot of the New South Wales and into the Queensland coast. Then when we move into Tuesday, we've still got that trough in attendance. There's some hints of maybe a new high centre building over the coast, so we could end up with some pretty light and variable winds. And there's a little bit of uncertainty in the wind strength with that high there. We're generally looking at pretty light winds on the whole. This is what's coming out of the model at the moment. We could end up with a slight sort of southerly but there's not a lot. Maybe a slight southerly push around 5 knots. Again, there's not much in the wave. Those waves are these further 1 to 1.5 meters short period. Slight chance of showers in the south, and there's medium to high chance of showers. For Wednesday, so the trough's clearing away. We've got high pressure over the Gold Coast, and we've got improving local weather conditions about the Gold Coast. So pretty decent weather up there, light and variable winds. Small waves, there's not much, just a slight chance for shower further down the coast. Generally, as you're up on the Gold Coast, it's looking like dry and very sunny skies. That's the forecast for the Gold Coast. So pretty nice Sunday, some showers on Monday, clearing on Tuesday, with settled weather and sunny skies generally on Wednesday. So some current information to see surface temperatures and currents in the next few slides. You can get them with the link down on the left-hand side. This presentation will be available afterwards as well. There's a different scale. It's not colder in Queensland. It's just a different scale of temperatures across Queensland and New South Wales. 20 to 21 is cold in Queensland. It's not so cold in New South Wales. But generally, those temperatures are on northerly currents down the coast mostly. We can see that again on the current image there. Lots of speeds on the currents, and again, this is available at the link on the previous slide I showed you. And some tides as well. So we're going into new moon. It's late morning highs, late afternoon lows, and then late evening highs as well. The bigger tide in the late evening. So just as a summary for the race start, it's likely sunny and fairly settled in the harbour, but cool with a maximum of only 16 degrees, pretty light winds in the harbour. Then as you move out, we've got south winds, light to moderate up much of the coast to start. They're easing and tending east to north, mostly light to moderate, perhaps fresher in the south at times. There's not much in the way of wave. We're starting off with that southerly swell around 2 to 2.5 meters, and it's generally easing. And then there's a little bit of an easterly wind wave picking up as you go through the days. Significant weather is pretty unlikely. We're not looking at any thunderstorms. We're not looking at anything in any east coast loads or anything like that. Not looking like any significant weather. It's pretty benign on the whole, just a few showers around. And there's that reminder for you again.
Sounds very exciting, doesn't it? We're now going to go on to a pre-recorded brief from Lee Goddard, who could not make it this evening. So if we could start that, and then we will go to David Kellett.
Good evening. I'm Lee Goddard. I'm the chair of the race committee. I welcome you all to this being the compulsory briefing, as is the final weather briefing at 8 AM this Saturday, the 30th of July, being race day. I'd like to acknowledge the Commodore of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, the Commodore of the Southport Yacht Club, our finishing partner, to our primary sponsor, Noakes, the Bureau of Meteorology, AMSA, the RMS, Water Police, Marine Rescue, the media, and of course, most importantly, you, the competitors, being the elite athletes. Well, first and foremost, race is on. It's the first time in 3 years. I actually competed in the 2019 event, and currently we have 64 entries. Mind you, the committee who serve you to make sure that we have this race are all volunteers, and our role that I lead is to ensure that we have the safest, the fairest, and the fastest race possible. Nothing more, nothing less. We all have a broad range of backgrounds on the committee, and we are risk aware, not risk adverse, and we'll always work with you, the competitors, and all the key stakeholders. Our starting point is that while fair, we are black and white in terms of expectations and the race discipline to make sure the race is managed correctly, that those who participate do so with very clear directions. This through the sailing instructions, the notice of race, and of course, the rules. But I thank you all, the owners, the participants, the skippers, for your cooperation and regulatory compliance. And I remind you the discipline of the SCED. It is really important that we maintain that discipline. We have contingency plans, and we've rehearsed and talked them through for the full range of emergencies. And of course, we always have to assume the worst conditions and work back from there. We've learned from precedents, previous incidents, and of course, we adapt to changing regulations. And if you haven't seen them, the sailing instructions have been published. You must have the correct but minimum requirements for safety numbers at all times. I remind you of that. It's a very important regulatory and safety requirement. Any crew changes must be advised and acknowledged by the sailing office. But please note the advice on potential hazards to navigation. And most of us, of course, have been north and know there are many hazards to navigations. For example, there's a new artificial reef just north of the finish line at Southport. And a notice has been included in your navigation bags. Please ensure that you are familiar with this, especially those boats continuing on to Brisbane after a race finish. Reporting at the start. This is a large fleet. So as you approach the committee vessel and get ready to communicate on VH72, consideration for all while manoeuvring. We don't want incidents at the start. The PRO will advise for line clear or may individually recall and will advise by VHF around race start time. There will be no general recall following the race start. If you do decide to discontinue racing at any time or offload crew or restart in accordance with the rules, you still need the minimum crew and to meet the safety qualifications at all time. There is no compromise on that rule. Declarations must be made in the cases outlined in the sailing instructions and within 6 hours of finishing. Please ensure that you receive a receipt. Again, this is a black and white requirement and without any ambiguity. Boats may be subject to spot checks after 12 hours from their finish time. Radio instructions. David Kellett will follow me and detail the radio structure for this race. And please ensure that you maintain a continuous listening watch on VHF channel 16. SCEDs will be conducted from Marine Rescue Sydney at 0535 and 1835 daily and your position will be accurately, we ask that your position be accurately charted at 0530 and at 18:30 daily in accordance with that SCED and reporting requirements. If for any reason you have a problem in reporting a SCED, make every effort by VHF through another vessel or through relay, or call race control or myself on my mobile. I'll be available at any time. Your tracker is to track you. The SCED confirms that you are okay. And I remind you, they are different. The tracker is track you. The SCED confirms that you're okay. So the discipline of the SCED is absolutely critical to a safe, fair and fast race. You'll not need to touch the trackers. Don't be tempted at all unless you need to activate the beacon. And of course, that process has been well educated throughout the whole fleet. And again, I know I've repeated it for the second time, you must at all times keep a proper listening watch on VHF channel 16 and report wind strengths and wave heights when wind strength exceeds 40 knots. Satellite communication checks we conducted daily at 13:35 from Sunday the 31st, and a selection of boats in the fleet will be called at random, and you are required, repeat, required to answer. Calls will be made within 20 minutes of this time only. If you do retire, please continue to participate in SCEDs and advise when you're safely back in port. The yellow brick is a critical safety device, so please ensure a full understanding of it. At the start, the media will be close to the racing action, which is terrific, and as you would expect, and this will be on a non-interference basis, and there may be movements between some boats to aid in us documenting and actually circulating the exciting action of the start of the race. Man overboard. Some of you have experienced it for real, and I know that you would have rehearsed it and practiced it in recent times. So good VHF, communication externally, early broadcast, life-saving device, deal with your circumstances, and remember, get the maximum help possible depending on the situation. Please check your PFDs. Please check your personal equipment. I know I'm repeating this again, but it is really important that you check your personal equipment. And inadvertent triggering of EPIRBs and PLBs, it is obviously a sensitive topic. It's really important that you ensure and take good care of all personal equipment, not just PLBs, but life jackets, the AIS mobs, and any other equipment. And of course, they should have been subject to regular servicing, but please check them again. A guide to PLB care has been included in your nav bags. This has been produced by AMSA in conjunction with manufacturers. Please ensure you read this carefully. Sea life. There is a lot of whales, a lot of dolphins, and a lot of sunfish out there. And in fact, there's probably a lot of debris post our significant rains and other extreme weather events we've experienced over the last couple of months. Note the sailing instructions on drones and simply comply. Maintain a good lookout by all means possible at all times. And of course, lookout isn't just visual, it's also by hearing. And general notices, make sure your paperwork, your spot checks, your sat phone texts are all in order. I'd like to thank the Sailing Office, of course, led very ably by Tara and her great team, and the race committee. They're all volunteers, and we do it because we actually like doing it, and we like you as competitors, and we like to see a fast, fair race that is the safest practical. So, race is on. Safe, fair, and as fast as it can be. Thanks for your time tonight. And David Kellett, with another race committee member, and the radio, and of course leading the radio team, is in the room this evening, and he will take any questions on my behalf. Good evening.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you all here again. It's been a few years. As Lee mentioned, you are required to monitor VHF 16 throughout the race. And I just remind you that relying on your handheld VHF in the cockpit probably won't cut it. So just be very aware of that. I would also like to clarify sailing instruction 30.3, where it says that the race control will be monitoring VHF 16 throughout the race. It's not quite right. Marine rescue will be monitoring. So if you have an emergency, you would just call Marine Rescue on VHF 16 and they will handle it and notify the club. For general traffic, it's preferred that you telephone race control, and in this race it's quite normal because we're fairly close to the coast, and if you need to, you go to your sat phone. The radio skids are all on VHF, and it will be on channel 6. There are some odd times that we have to do these skids to fit in with the normal work schedule of marine rescue. So it's 05:30 and 18:30. To do this race with VHF, we link a number of antennas up and down the coast, which cover the area that the fleet are in. So unlike HF, where you would hear my call and hear the yacht's return call, you will probably only hear the yachts that are very close to you. So you will hear my call for a position, and then you probably will hear blank, and then you'll hear me repeat the yacht's position. So a little different. For those of you that did 2019 race, that was the system that we used. At the sked, we'll give any warnings, any weather warnings, and then we'll proceed straight into the positions. And then after the positions, we'll give a weather update. If the race drags on, and it certainly looks like it will, we'll conduct the skids through until there's probably only a handful left, and we'll alert you when we'll probably switch to phone range and contact you for your positions on the phone. But that'll probably be when there's only a handful of boats left at sea. I hope there's still some beer at the Southwood Yacht Club by the time you get up. I was there a week or so ago, and I knew this wife. The accidental PLB activation has been experienced in the last races. As Lee advised, we need to contact you if you have an accidental PLB. You won't know it on the boat probably, but we will, and Marine Rescue will, and that'll go through to answer. And unless we can get a hold of you and find out whether you've got a problem or not within 30 minutes, AMSA will be sending an asset up, which is normally a jet, and they take a dim view of our organisation if we can't control that. So please, please monitor your sat phone and or your mobile phone for communications from race control at all times. It's imperative that we control this, otherwise we're going to get in strife with AMSA. Just got a number of housekeeping items to mention to you now. We draw your attention to the sailing instruction for the start with the I flag rule. If any part of your hull, crew or equipment of the boat is over the line, including the bowsprit, you could be called OCS. So, we'd also like the following boats that have outstanding paperwork to contact the sailing office as a matter of priority: Ariel, Celestial, Cicero, Rev, Tempo, Transcendence, Trento, and Wonderland. In saying that, we'd like to thank everybody for being so cooperative and helping get all your paperwork in. This year we've had some problems with the rating certificates being presented. All of you had done the right thing and had complied in time, that the rating office had some sickness and some other problems, so a few were delayed, but we've got them all now. But we'd like to thank you all for your cooperation with them. So that's all the information that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Yes, sir. Yeah, you want? Yeah, we'll just wait for the microphone.
Just a quick question. What's your experience of how far offshore the VHF is working?
Once in 2019, we had one boat go in excess of 25 miles and we lost contact with them. And we called them on the sat phone and we got them. So it's about 20-25 miles. We have a question from the webinar. All competitors who have viewed the webinar can collect their nav bags from the sailing office. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much. Have a good race.
And our final speaker this evening is the Commodore from Southport Yacht Club, Drew Jones, and he's obviously our finishing partner, and really happy to have you in this evening. Welcome, Drew.
Thank you. Firstly, I've just been elected to Commodore. I have been the sailing Commodore for 4 years. Past Commodore who's joined us today is Ken Eagle. He had, unfortunately, the 2 years of COVID. So Ken's here, so I'd like Ken to stand so that everyone can see. He put in a big effort Okay, the Noakes Sydney to Gold Coast race for 2022. The escort vessels in accordance with sailing instructions 17.3 will be our black ribs. They are manned by our volunteers and they will maintain a listing on 09. So please, once you go through the finish line, you've dropped your sails, you've packed up, and you're coming in, if you could go to 09, that would be fantastic. Also, some of you will be rafting or tying up to our new $9 million super yacht bid. So I think you'll find that very enjoyable. The two containers will be on the north side of the marina office. So you'll be able to get your equipment pretty well straight away, because I think the container's a bit there before you do. Also, like every club at the moment, we're struggling with staff, with COVID and all that. So could you just please be a little bit mindful of that? And if the jug of rum takes a minute longer, let's not be too upset. There's also, I checked them the other day, plenty of hot water in the showers. Plenty of hot water in the showers. So please don't forget also, if you're intending to stay longer than Friday, you need to go to the marina office and ask them nicely, because it's a very busy marina. Also, we look forward to giving you a carton of beer, only when you give us the tracker. Once we get the tracker, we will also get you will get your card. And if you're a bigger boat with more than 12 crew, you get 2 cards. Right? And it is 4S. That's it for me. I seriously wish everyone a safe and pleasant trip up. Fortunately, not too pleasant. And I look forward to shaking your hands, passing you your beer, and having you can tell me a few tales. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Ken. Great to see you down here in the south. Not too cold.
It was actually colder here on the Gold Coast than it was here today.
Well, more than welcome. That's the end of the briefing tonight. Before I close, I'd like to remind you 2 things. One, make sure that you have signed in tonight and signing with your boat name. And also there are maps at the back of the marina positions where you'll be going tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a good evening and have a great sail. Bye.